Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you truly sat down alone with yourself? I'm not talking about scrolling through your phone or having the TV on in the background. I mean truly alone, just you, your thoughts, and your heart. We live in a world that's louder than ever before. Notifications, emails, conversations, responsibilities, they never stop. We've been conditioned to keep moving, to stay busy, to fill every moment with noise, as if silence is a void we must escape. But here's the truth: that silence, that stillness, is where the magic happens. Being alone with yourself is one of the most powerful practices you can adopt in life. In today's fast-paced, constantly connected world, it may seem counterintuitive to embrace solitude. We are taught to stay busy, to be constantly engaged, to fill every moment with noise, whether it's work, social media, or even simple distractions. The idea of being alone can feel uncomfortable or even intimidating. However, there is an incredible power in stillness. And it is often in those quiet, solitary moments that we discover the most about ourselves. Being alone with yourself is not just about being physically alone. It's about disconnecting from the distractions around you and tuning in to the most important person in your life, you. When you take the time to sit in stillness, you create a space where the external noise fades and the internal dialogue rises to the surface. It's in this space that you can begin to hear your own thoughts and feelings without the interference of outside influences. This is where you start to truly understand who you are, what you value, and what you want from life. In the rush of everyday life, it's easy to lose touch with ourselves. We get so caught up in pleasing others, meeting deadlines, and responding to the demands of the world that we forget to check in with ourselves. We forget to ask, what do I need right now? What do I truly desire? What makes me happy? It's in these moments of solitude that the answers to these questions often arise. The mind, when given the space to be still, begins to open up in ways that are not possible when we are overwhelmed by external stimuli. We begin to access our deeper intuition, and the clarity we seek becomes much more accessible. Far too often, we seek answers from others or rely on external sources for validation, but when we learn to be alone with ourselves, we realize that we already have the answers within us. We simply need to listen. Being alone also allows us to connect with our emotions on a deeper level. In the chaos of our daily lives, we can suppress or avoid feelings that we may not want to face. But when we are alone, we can process these emotions in a safe, non-judgmental environment. We can feel our fears, doubts, and sadness without rushing to push them away or distract ourselves. And in doing so, we create the opportunity for healing and growth. Acknowledging our emotions without fear or shame is one of the most powerful ways we can learn and grow as individuals. Another incredible benefit of being alone with yourself is the ability to gain perspective on your life. We often get caught up in the day-to-day hustle and bustle, but solitude allows us to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. We can reflect on our experiences, learn from our past mistakes, and plan for the future with greater clarity. It's easy to get lost in the small, trivial matters of life, but when we take the time to sit with ourselves, we can see what truly matters. We begin to understand the larger purpose behind the challenges we face, and we learn how to approach them with a sense of grace and strength. Being alone with yourself also helps you build resilience. It's in solitude that you learn how to be your own source of comfort and strength. When life gets tough, we often look to others for support, which is completely natural. But learning to be comfortable and at peace with yourself gives you the ability to navigate difficult times with greater emotional stability. You realize that you don't need to rely on others to feel complete. You have everything within you to face whatever comes your way. This self-reliance is a powerful gift that solitude offers, and it allows you to grow in ways that you may never have imagined. The truth is, solitude is not about escaping from the world or isolating yourself from others. It is about finding balance. It is about learning to connect with yourself so deeply that you can show up in the world more fully. The power of stillness lies in its ability to recharge, to refocus, and to reconnect you with your inner strength. We are so accustomed to running from silence, but it is in silence that we find our power. It is in the stillness that we reconnect with our true selves, our deepest desires, and our untapped potential. When you allow yourself to be alone with your thoughts, your emotions, and your dreams, you tap into a wellspring of wisdom that has always been within you. You start to see your life from a new perspective, free from the judgments and expectations of others. You become more aligned with your true purpose and more aware of the choices that will lead you to fulfillment and happiness. Being alone with yourself is not a luxury or a privilege. It is a necessity for anyone who wants to live a life that is authentic, meaningful, and filled with purpose. In those quiet moments, you realize that you are your own greatest source of power. And when you understand this, nothing in the world can take it away from you. When you are alone with yourself, you come face to face with truths you may have been avoiding. These truths are often not easy to confront, but they are essential for growth and personal transformation. It's in those solitary moments of quiet reflection that we can no longer escape the parts of ourselves that we may have suppressed or ignored. The fears, doubts, insecurities, and unresolved emotions rise to the surface, demanding our attention. And while this can feel uncomfortable, it is in this discomfort that healing begins. If we avoid these difficult emotions or truths, we cannot move forward. We remain stagnant, stuck in a cycle that limits our potential. But when we allow ourselves to fully experience what we feel, without judgment or resistance, we begin the process of emotional healing and growth. We often spend our lives running from discomfort. We distract ourselves with work, social activities, and technology, always trying to avoid facing the parts of ourselves that we fear or dislike. We convince ourselves that we're too busy to deal with our emotions, that we'll get to them later. But here's the reality that later never comes. Our unresolved issues pile up, quietly impacting our happiness, relationships, and overall well-being. The longer we avoid confronting these truths, the more power they have over us. They fester beneath the surface, affecting the way we perceive ourselves and the world around us. Being alone with yourself gives you the opportunity to look at these uncomfortable truths head on. The quiet allows you to process feelings you may not have given yourself permission to feel in the past. Maybe it's the fear of failure or the guilt over past mistakes or the sadness from a lost relationship. These emotions are a part of your human experience and they are not meant to be ignored. The beauty of being alone is that it creates a safe space where you can experience and release these feelings. You no longer need to hide from them or push them away. Instead, you can acknowledge them, sit with them, and allow them to pass through you. In doing so, you reclaim control over your emotional well-being. Facing the uncomfortable truths of our lives is also how we begin to understand ourselves on a deeper level. When we're constantly surrounded by distractions and the opinions of others, we can lose sight of who we truly are. We may act in ways that are not aligned with our authentic selves because we're too busy trying to fit in or meet others' expectations. But when we spend time alone, we're able to reconnect with the essence of who we are. We can examine the values and beliefs that have shaped us. And we can ask ourselves whether they still serve us. We might discover that some of the beliefs we hold are not our own, but are ideas we've adopted from others. The alone time allows us to sift through these beliefs, discard the ones that no longer align with our truth, and embrace the ones that reflect our authentic selves. Being alone with yourself also provides the opportunity to forgive yourself. We all carry past regrets, mistakes, and moments we wish we could undo. These things often weigh heavily on our hearts, and we may not even realize how much they affect our everyday lives. But when we sit in silence with ourselves, we can begin to release these burdens. We can practice self-compassion, understanding that we are human and that mistakes are part of our journey. In the stillness, we can forgive ourselves for the things we've done or failed to do, and in doing so, we free ourselves from the past. This process of self-forgiveness is incredibly powerful as it allows us to let go of guilt and shame that may have been holding us back from moving forward. It allows us to heal and start anew. Furthermore, being alone with yourself provides the space to acknowledge your desires and dreams. Often we get so caught up in the demands of life that we forget what we truly want. We may find ourselves living a life that feels disconnected from our inner desires, simply going through the motions and meeting expectations. But when we take time to be alone, we can reconnect with our passions and aspirations. The quiet allows us to hear the whisper of our soul telling us what we really want out of life. Maybe we've been too afraid to pursue a dream because of the fear of failure or rejection. Maybe we've been too busy to even consider what we want. But in those quiet moments, we can rediscover what brings us joy and fulfillment. And once we recognize what we truly desire, we are better equipped to take the necessary steps toward making those dreams a reality. There is also immense power in confronting our fears. When we are constantly surrounded by noise and distractions, it's easy to avoid the things that scare us. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, these are natural emotions, but they can paralyze us if we allow them to control our lives. Being alone with yourself forces you to face these fears head on. You can no longer pretend they don't exist or try to push them down. Instead, you can explore why you're afraid and what might happen if you move past those fears. Often we realize that the fear we feel is exaggerated or based on false assumptions. In the stillness, we can gain perspective on our fears and learn how to navigate them rather than be ruled by them. Facing these uncomfortable truths is an essential part of personal growth. It's through this process that we learn who we really are, what we truly desire, and what we're capable of. While it may be difficult at first, the courage to face your own truths opens the door to transformation. It's in the quiet solitude, when you're alone with yourself, that you gain the clarity and strength needed to move forward in a more authentic and empowered way. So embrace those uncomfortable moments with grace, because they are the stepping stones to a better, more fulfilled version of yourself. Time spent alone offers us the invaluable opportunity to gain perspective on our lives. It's easy to get swept up in the rush of day-to-day activities, the constant flow of tasks, and the demands of others. In these moments, we can become so focused on the small, immediate concerns that we lose sight of the bigger picture. We begin to operate on autopilot, responding to the urgency of life's demands without truly reflecting on where we are heading or whether the path we're on is aligned with our values and long-term goals. But when we take time to be alone, away from the distractions and the noise of the world, we can pause, step back, and look at our lives from a more expansive view. This moment of reflection allows us to gain clarity and a deeper understanding of where we've been, where we are, and where we want to go. Often we get caught up in the day-to-day hustle and the constant need to be productive. We focus on checking off tasks, meeting deadlines, and fulfilling obligations. This can create a sense of urgency that clouds our judgment and prevents us from thinking about our broader aspirations. When we are constantly moving, there's little room for deep reflection. We forget to ask ourselves the critical questions: are the things I'm doing today in alignment with the person I want to become tomorrow? Are my daily actions serving my long-term goals, or am I just trying to keep up with the pace of life? These are the questions that emerge when we allow ourselves the space to reflect. In the stillness of solitude, we begin to see our lives more clearly, without the pressure to perform or the distractions of external demands. One of the most powerful aspects of being alone with yourself is the ability to reflect on your past experiences and learn from them. Life is filled with moments that shape us, both the triumphs and the setbacks. However, when we're caught up in the whirlwind of daily life, it's easy to overlook the lessons these experiences offer. We may glance at a past mistake and quickly move on, rather than truly understanding what it taught us. Likewise, we may celebrate a success without fully processing what led to that achievement. Being alone gives us the chance to slow down and examine our experiences with a clear mind. It allows us to identify patterns in our behavior, understand how past decisions have shaped our present, and see how we might approach things differently in the future. This level of introspection is critical for personal growth because it enables us to turn our experiences into wisdom. Another key benefit of spending time alone is the opportunity to reassess our relationships. In the hustle of everyday life, it's easy to stay caught up in the demands and expectations of others. We might become so wrapped up in trying to meet everyone's needs that we lose sight of our own. When we take time to be alone, we can reflect on the dynamics of our relationships and ask ourselves if they are truly nourishing us. Are the people in our lives supporting us in becoming the best version of ourselves? Or are they draining our energy, holding us back, or causing us to compromise our values? This kind of reflection is essential for maintaining healthy, fulfilling relationships. By stepping away from the constant interactions and noise, we gain the distance needed to evaluate whether our connections are truly serving us or if we need to make changes. It's in these moments of solitude that we gain the clarity to establish stronger, more authentic relationships that align with who we are and who we want to become. The alone time also gives us the chance to re-examine our goals and aspirations. In the constant busyness of life, it's easy to get stuck in a routine and forget why we're doing what we're doing. We might find ourselves working towards a goal simply because it's expected of us or because it feels like the next logical step, without considering whether it still resonates with our true desires. Time alone gives us the opportunity to step back and ask ourselves if our goals are still aligned with our authentic purpose. Are we chasing someone else's version of success, or are we pursuing our own dreams? We may discover that some of the goals we've been working toward no longer excite us, or that we have a new vision for our future that we hadn't fully acknowledged. This clarity allows us to make more intentional decisions about how we spend our time and energy, ensuring that we are moving toward a future that feels authentic and fulfilling. One of the most transformative aspects of being alone with yourself is the ability to reconnect with your inner sense of purpose. In the busyness of life, it's easy to lose sight of the deeper reasons behind our actions. We get caught in the cycle of doing without fully understanding why we're doing it. Time spent alone allows us to reconnect with the essence of what drives us. When we can step away from the noise, we are better able to hear the whispers of our heart, the desires, passions, and dreams that have always been there, but may have been drowned out by the demands of the world. This reconnection with purpose can reignite our motivation and give us a renewed sense of direction. We become more aware of what truly matters to us and can align our actions with that vision. Reflection also gives us the chance to evaluate the balance in our lives. When we're constantly on the go, It's easy to overcommit, saying yes to everything without considering whether we have the time or energy to fully invest. Time alone allows us to evaluate where our energy is going and whether we're spreading ourselves too thin. We can assess whether we are balancing our personal life, work, relationships, and self-care in a way that feels harmonious, or whether one area of our life is dominating the others. By stepping back and gaining perspective, we can make adjustments to ensure that we are living in a way that supports our overall well-being and happiness. Being alone with yourself offers a powerful opportunity to gain perspective on your life, enabling you to reflect on your past, reassess your relationships and goals, reconnect with your purpose, and achieve greater balance. When we create the space for reflection, we can step out of the rush of life and see things more clearly, allowing us to make decisions that align with our true desires and values. It's a time for deep introspection, self-awareness, and clarity, tools that are essential for leading a fulfilling and meaningful life. When we spend time alone, it is one of the most powerful opportunities to build and strengthen self-trust. In a world that is full of distractions, external opinions, and pressures to conform, we often lose sight of our own voice. We rely heavily on others for validation, direction, and reassurance. This is natural to some extent, as we are social beings, but when we continually look outside ourselves for approval, we undermine our ability to trust our own instincts, decisions, and abilities. Alone time allows us to reconnect with ourselves, to quiet the external noise, and to learn to trust our own judgment once again. Self-trust is built over time and often through difficult, uncomfortable moments. When we face challenges in solitude, we have no choice but to rely on ourselves to navigate through them. This can be difficult, especially when we're used to seeking advice or support from others, but it's in these moments that we begin to prove to ourselves that we are capable. Every decision we make, every challenge we overcome while alone adds another layer to the foundation of trust we have in ourselves. And while those moments may not always go perfectly or as planned, they still offer us a chance to learn and grow. Each time we trust ourselves and follow through on our own decisions, we gain confidence in our ability to handle what comes our way. When we are alone, we are also forced to face our vulnerabilities. These are the parts of ourselves that we often try to hide or avoid in the presence of others. Whether it's our fears, insecurities, or past mistakes, we cannot run from them in solitude. And yet, when we confront them, we gain strength. Self-trust doesn't come from perfection or never making mistakes. It comes from knowing that no matter what happens, we are capable of handling whatever life throws at us. It's the recognition that even when things don't go as planned, we can adapt, learn, and keep moving forward. In solitude, we can truly see that our mistakes do not define us, but are rather stepping stones to becoming more resilient and self-reliant. The more we spend time alone, the more we can hear our inner voice. This voice, often drowned out by the busyness of life, holds the wisdom we need to make decisions that are true to ourselves. When we are constantly surrounded by other people's opinions and perspectives, it can be difficult to hear our own thoughts clearly. We may find ourselves second-guessing our choices or questioning our instincts. But when we are alone, we are given the space to really listen to our inner dialogue. We begin to trust that voice, to recognize that it knows what's best for us, and to follow its guidance with confidence. This process of listening to ourselves and acting on that wisdom builds self-trust, making us more assured in our decisions and direction. Being alone also gives us the opportunity to acknowledge our own needs and desires, independent of the influences of others. Often in the hustle of life, we put everyone else's needs before our own. We sacrifice our time, energy, and well-being for the sake of others, and in doing so, we lose touch with what we really want. But when we take time to be alone, we can check in with ourselves. We can ask, what do I truly need in this moment? What do I want for myself? In this process, we develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and our desires. We begin to trust that it's okay to honor our needs, that it is not selfish to take care of ourselves first. Self-trust is rooted in the belief that we deserve to fulfill our own desires and take care of our own well-being without feeling guilty or indebted to others. The act of being alone also challenges us to confront our self-doubt and to take ownership of our choices. When we are surrounded by others, it's easy to rely on them for reassurance or to let them make decisions for us. But when we are alone, we must face our doubts head-on and make decisions with the full weight of responsibility. This can be intimidating, especially when we're used to seeking external validation. However, this is exactly where self-trust is forged. Each time we make a decision, whether big or small, we prove to ourselves that we can be trusted to make the right choices. We learn that it is okay to make mistakes and that our decisions are part of our personal growth. The more we practice trusting ourselves, the more confident we become in our ability to navigate life's challenges. Another way being alone builds self-trust is by providing the opportunity to reflect on past experiences. In solitude, we can look back on the choices we've made in the past, both the good and the bad, and learn from them. We can recognize when we made decisions that served us and when we allowed fear or doubt to steer us off course. This reflection allows us to understand ourselves better, to see the patterns in our behavior, and to identify the areas in which we can grow. And as we learn from our past, we develop greater trust in our ability to make better decisions in the future. This process of learning from experience, of taking ownership of our past, and applying that wisdom to our future is essential in building lasting self-trust. Trusting ourselves also empowers us to set boundaries and to protect our time and energy. When we are constantly surrounded by others, it's easy to become overwhelmed by the expectations and demands of the people in our lives. We may feel compelled to say yes to things we don't want to do, to stretch ourselves too thin, or to compromise our values in order to please others. However, when we spend time alone, we gain the clarity and strength to say no when we need to establish healthy boundaries and to prioritize our own needs. This ability to trust ourselves enough to set boundaries is a key element of self-trust, as it reflects the belief that we deserve to protect our time and energy. Self-trust is not an overnight process. It's built slowly, step by step, through consistent practice. The more we spend time alone, the more we are able to reconnect with our inner voice, face our vulnerabilities, and make decisions that align with our true selves. We gain confidence not from the validation of others, but from the trust we place in our own judgment and abilities. And as we continue to build this trust, we become more resilient, self-reliant, and capable of handling whatever life throws our way. The time we spend alone is not just a luxury, it is an essential practice for developing the deep, unshakable trust in ourselves that is required to lead a fulfilling, empowered life. One of the most profound aspects of spending time alone is the ability to reconnect with our passions and creativity. In the chaos of everyday life, it is all too easy to lose sight of what truly excites and inspires us. We often get caught up in meeting obligations, handling responsibilities, and fulfilling the demands of others. As a result, our own passions and creative spark can be pushed to the side, buried beneath the noise of the world around us. However, when we take the time to be alone, we create the space to rediscover these aspects of ourselves. This time of solitude becomes a fertile ground for nurturing our innate creativity and reigniting the passions that fuel us. Creativity is something that resides within each of us, but it often becomes stifled by external pressures. We live in a world that values productivity and achievement over creative exploration. We are taught to focus on outcomes, to measure success by tangible results, and to constantly strive for efficiency. But creativity does not thrive in such an environment. It requires space, time, and freedom to flourish. Being alone gives us the opportunity to step away from the pressure to perform and to simply create for the sake of creating. Whether it's through writing, painting, dancing, cooking, or any other form of self-expression, the act of creating without expectation allows our imaginations to roam freely. In solitude, we can engage with our creativity without the fear of judgment or the need to conform to other standards. This is when the most authentic and original ideas emerge, because they come from a place of pure expression rather than external approval. Time spent alone also gives us the chance to reconnect with the things that bring us joy. In the hustle of life, we often forget what makes us happy. We get so caught up in fulfilling our responsibilities that we neglect the things that once sparked our excitement. Whether it's a long-lost hobby or a dream that we've tucked away, solitude gives us the chance to rediscover those things that bring us fulfillment. It is in these moments of quiet reflection that we can ask ourselves what we truly enjoy doing without worrying about how it looks to others or how it fits into the expectations of society. This rediscovery is essential for reconnecting with our authentic selves and bringing more joy into our lives. When we make time for the things that light us up, we tap into a deeper sense of purpose and satisfaction. When we spend time alone, we also have the opportunity to explore new interests and expand our creative horizons. Often, we limit ourselves to what we already know or feel comfortable with, sticking to routines that are predictable and safe. But being alone gives us the freedom to step outside of our comfort zone and experiment with new ideas, activities, or skills. We might try something we've never done before, whether it's learning a new instrument, taking up a craft, or exploring a new area of knowledge. This exploration allows us to tap into new sources of inspiration and creativity that we may not have been exposed to otherwise. We might discover hidden talents or interests that we never knew existed, and these new experiences can ignite a passion that propels us forward in unexpected ways. Spending time alone also encourages self-reflection, which is key to cultivating creativity. In the busyness of life, we often don't have the time or mental space to reflect on our thoughts, ideas, and feelings. But when we are alone, we are given the opportunity to go inward and listen to our inner voice. This process of self-reflection helps us clarify our goals, desires, and values, which in turn nurtures our creativity. When we understand ourselves better, we are better able to channel our creativity in ways that are aligned with our authentic vision. We may find ourselves inspired to pursue projects that are meaningful to us, rather than those driven by external expectations. The more we reflect on our own inner world, the more we unlock new avenues for creative expression. In addition to fostering creativity, alone time allows us to gain clarity about our life's purpose. Passion and creativity are deeply intertwined with our sense of purpose. When we are connected to our creative flow, we feel more aligned with the deeper meaning behind what we do. We become more attuned to the things that matter most to us and are able to express ourselves in ways that reflect our true essence. When we take time alone to reflect on our life's path, we can ask ourselves important questions. What am I truly passionate about? What do I want to contribute to the world? What is the legacy I want to leave behind? These questions can guide us toward a more purposeful life and provide us with the motivation to pursue the passions and creative projects that bring us fulfillment. In this way, alone time becomes a powerful tool for not only reigniting creativity, but also aligning our actions with our deepest values and aspirations. The solitude we experience when we are alone also provides an opportunity for mental clarity. Our minds are often filled with distractions, work, relationships, social media, and the constant noise of modern life. These distractions can cloud our thoughts, making it difficult to focus and think clearly. But when we are alone, we can create the mental space to quiet our minds and think deeply. This mental clarity allows us to approach our creative pursuits with greater focus and intention. We can cut through the clutter of everyday life and connect more deeply with our thoughts and ideas. The result is a more fluid and authentic expression of our creativity, untainted by the noise of the outside world. Being alone also teaches us to embrace the process of creation rather than fixating on the end result. In a world that is obsessed with outcomes, it's easy to get caught up in the pressure to create something perfect or successful. However, true creativity is not about perfection. It's about the freedom to explore, experiment, and express oneself without judgment. When we are alone, we can focus on the joy of the process rather than the final product. This shift in mindset allows us to approach our creative endeavors with a sense of curiosity and playfulness rather than stress or self-doubt. We can make mistakes, try new things, and follow our intuition without worrying about whether it's good enough. In doing so, we free ourselves from the constraints of perfectionism and give ourselves permission to create with authenticity and freedom. The time we spend alone serves as a gateway to rediscovering our passions and unlocking our creative potential. It is in the solitude that we find the space to reconnect with ourselves, explore new ideas, and engage with the world in ways that reflect our true desires and values. When we allow ourselves the gift of time alone, we tap into a wellspring of creativity that has the power to transform our lives and the world around us. By giving ourselves the freedom to explore, create, and express, we open the door to a life that is more vibrant, fulfilling, and aligned with our deepest passions. Spending time alone provides an invaluable opportunity for personal healing and emotional growth. Life can be overwhelming at times, and in the midst of our busy routines, we often neglect the emotional wounds and unresolved feelings that we carry with us. These emotional burdens, whether from past experiences, relationships, or personal challenges, can accumulate and weigh us down, influencing our mental and physical well-being. However, when we take time to be alone, we create the space to confront these emotions, heal, and ultimately move forward with greater strength and clarity. Many of us avoid confronting our emotional pain because it feels uncomfortable or overwhelming. We distract ourselves with work, social obligations, or entertainment, believing that if we don't acknowledge our feelings, they will disappear. Yet this avoidance only perpetuates the cycle of emotional distress. The truth is, emotions, whether positive or negative, need to be acknowledged and processed in order to heal. When we are alone, we can create an environment of safety and stillness that allows us to reflect on our emotions without fear of judgment or interruption. This solitude provides the emotional space to face the pain, disappointment, and frustration that we may have been avoiding. It is in this space that true healing can begin. Alone time allows us to examine our feelings in a more honest and raw way. Without the distraction of other people's opinions or external expectations, we can delve deeper into what we are truly feeling. Often we might not even be fully aware of the emotions we are carrying until we are alone. Whether it's sadness, anger, grief, or fear, solitude gives us the opportunity to connect with these emotions on a deeper level. We can explore where these feelings are coming from and understand their roots. For instance, we might realize that a recent event triggered unresolved trauma from the past, or we might uncover feelings of insecurity that stem from a long-standing pattern of negative self-talk. These realizations can be eye-opening, and when we are able to recognize the source of our emotional struggles, we are better equipped to address and heal them. When we are alone, we also have the chance to forgive ourselves and others. Many of us carry guilt or resentment for things we've done or experienced. We may hold on to grudges, either against others or ourselves, which can prevent us from moving forward. Alone time provides a chance to process these emotions and find a path to forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean excusing hurtful actions, but it means letting go of the emotional hold these situations have on us. We forgive not for the sake of others, but for ourselves so that we can release the negative energy that keeps us stuck in the past. This process of emotional release can be incredibly liberating as it frees us from the weight of unresolved anger, shame, or regret. In solitude, we also have the opportunity to reconnect with our inner peace. When we are constantly surrounded by others, the noise and demands of the world can overwhelm us, preventing us from accessing a sense of calm and inner stability. However, when we are alone, we can learn to quiet our minds and reconnect with a place of stillness within ourselves. This stillness is where healing happens. It is the space where we can reflect, release emotional pain, and reconnect with our core sense of self. Alone time allows us to clear out the clutter of negative thoughts and emotions, creating room for a more positive and peaceful mindset. It is in this place of peace that emotional healing takes root. Another key aspect of emotional healing in solitude is the ability to practice self-compassion. Often when we are struggling emotionally, we are our own harshest critics. We blame ourselves for things beyond our control, or we judge ourselves for not being strong enough to overcome our challenges. Alone time gives us the opportunity to silence that inner critic and replace it with compassion. We can remind ourselves that it is okay to be vulnerable, that it is okay to feel pain, and that healing takes time. Self-compassion allows us to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a close friend. This practice can be transformative as it creates an environment where we feel safe to experience our emotions without shame or guilt. Solitude also offers us the space to establish a healthier relationship with our emotions. Many of us have been taught to suppress or hide our feelings, particularly the negative ones. We may feel ashamed of our sadness or fear, or we may be taught that anger is something to be avoided at all costs. However, emotions are a natural part of the human experience, and all feelings, whether positive or negative, are valid. Time alone gives us the chance to accept our emotions without judgment. We can learn to experience them fully without pushing them away or trying to escape from them. This acceptance of our feelings is an important step in emotional healing, as it allows us to process them rather than repress them. By embracing our emotions, we begin to understand that they are not something to fear, but rather messages that can guide us toward growth and understanding. During solitary moments, we can also engage in self-reflection and self-awareness. Reflecting on our emotions allows us to gain insight into our behavioral patterns and reactions. For example, we may notice that we tend to react with anger when we feel threatened, or that we withdraw when we experience hurt. Recognizing these patterns is a crucial step in emotional healing because it empowers us to change the way we respond to difficult situations. Alone time gives us the mental and emotional space to break free from reactive behaviors and to create new, healthier responses to our emotions. This increased self-awareness also allows us to better understand how past experiences shape our emotional reactions, and in turn, we can start to heal the wounds of the past. Alone time provides the opportunity to process and release trauma. Trauma, whether big or small, can have lasting emotional effects. However, it often remains buried beneath the surface, affecting our behavior and relationships without us even realizing it. In solitude, we can face these painful memories, acknowledge their impact, and begin to work through the healing process. This is not always easy, but being alone gives us the freedom to explore these difficult emotions at our own pace, without the pressure of others' expectations. Over time, we can begin to release the grip that trauma has on our lives and heal at a pace that feels right for us. The healing power of being alone lies in the ability to confront, process, and release our emotions in a safe and nurturing environment. Solitude offers us the space to reconnect with our feelings, practice self-compassion, and develop a healthier relationship with our emotional world. It allows us to reflect on the past, embrace the present, and move forward with greater emotional resilience. When we make time for emotional healing, we create the foundation for a healthier, more balanced life, where we are able to navigate life's challenges with grace, strength, and authenticity. In conclusion, spending time alone is a powerful tool for personal growth, healing, and self-discovery. It allows us to reconnect with our inner selves, foster creativity, build self-trust, and process emotions. By embracing solitude, we create the space necessary to understand and heal from our past, explore our passions, and become more aligned with our true purpose. Ultimately, alone time empowers us to live a more authentic and fulfilling life.